two ladies there, that's what I hear.
So like other storytellers, my story takes place in a traveling world. We're going to call it Safe at Last, based on how it ends. The backdrop for this story is that before I moved to Asheville, I worked 2 jobs for a year in Richmond and saved up all my money to go to South America with no plan for 3 months. And I flew into Colombia. 9 days into my 70-day trip, I got robbed of all my identity and all of my bank cards. Any access to my money, basically, or who I am as a person on the planet. And then I, through a series of like really nice strangers and expats, like kind of got on my feet again and wound up buying a really expensive flight to Chile, which was my like ultimate destination. And I stayed for a little while with a friend of mine who was also from Richmond and was working at another branch of her advertising firm in Santiago, in the capital. So we went on like a weekend trip to this super cool like hippie town called Valparaiso, and we wandered around on the hills, and we like got really comfortable with this really sweet couple that had a hostel. And you know, by the 3rd day, like we were like, you know, the world is our oyster kind of mentality. And we're getting into a little taxi to take a bus to the taxi to the bus station. And right as we're handing our luggage to the taxi driver, this young kid who waits in like the Zocalo of the city shoots out and rips this like super expensive camera out of my friend's hand, as well as her like personal bag, which has like all of her, you know, the little moleskins you keep of like people you meet when you're traveling and all the important details. He grabs that stuff, and she's been hearing all of my stories about what it's like being robbed and feeling your identity stolen and all of this really like sentimental stuff taken from you. Suddenly this happens to her, and so she's kind of in hysterics, and this is like $1,000 camera or something. And so we take a bus back to Santiago, and she's kind of shaky, and she has to be there for a long time, like doing a real job, and I'm just there like with no plan, like kind of depressed, and like just staying in she lives in this weird hotel that her company put her up in, kind of like a multi-use hotel, like traveling space with like a front desk man and all this stuff. So we've been back a few days, and she goes off to her fancy job, and I'm in like the rich part of downtown Santiago, and like sleeping in and like just going to museums by myself every day and just being like, what am I doing? And the phone rings, and it wakes me up, and I answer it because I think maybe it's her calling to see like if we can like maybe have lunch and I can have like human interaction that day. And it's a guy who says like, he's like, his voice is really shaky, he's really like in turmoil, and he says it's Gustavo, who is her coworker who I've met, and he says basically that, this is all in Spanish, that he and Daniela were going to lunch on their lunch break, and he let her drive his car, and she got in an accident and wound up hitting this other car and seriously injuring the child of a very famous newscaster or journalist in Santiago. And they need like a couple $1,000s for them to not go to the press and say that this American girl in the marketing industry has like, you know, basically like handicapped the son of like Katie Couric of Chile. That's like what I got from what this guy's saying. And he's like, you know, he's like, like he's freaking out, and like I'm kind of like filling in the blanks, being like, oh, like the coworker of Daniela, are you sure? Like, that's the way that you deal with it here? Like, you're just gonna take money, and then that way her like marketing career won't be over? And he's like, yes, I need you to get like the credit cards or like any cash that she has, and like I don't have access to my money, so I'm like, I have like $52 of her money that I can bring to you in an intersection to save my friend's career. And then he's like, is there a safe in the place? And like, she had shown me that there was a safe there, which was really weird. And she was like, yeah, I put like my passport in there and like my tickets home. And so he's like, I need you to get in the safe. And I'm still like half asleep, and this is all in Spanish. And so I'm like, I don't know the combination. He's like, see if you can get like a hammer and like a chisel and see if you can like get in there. And so like at one point I'm literally with like a butcher knife like in the fulcrum of the safe, like trying to jam it open, like total like hysteria in my mind. And he's like saying all these vocabulary words, and I'm like, I really don't know that word, and I would really like to know that word. And I'm just like going down the language highway of my brain. And then at one point he's like, "Ella trajo sus joyas," and I was like, and that, like, he didn't say joyería, he didn't say like jewelry, he said like, did she bring her jewels? And then that's when I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, then I just like realized that this was like a crazy bribe. And I was like, no estamos pinches princesas que viajan con sus diamantes y oro. Like, I don't have any like fucking jewels. Like, what kind of Americans do you think we are? Like coming to other countries, like toting rubies in duffel bags and stuff. And so I'm just like, no, we don't have any joyas. Like, shut the fuck up. And like, he keeps going, he's crying more, and I'm like so scared. And he's like, Daniela's at the police station. If you don't bring this like $2 grand to me now, like we're going to the press, and she's never gonna work in marketing again. And so like in this like whim of like come-uppedness, I just like hung up, and then I just like waited there for a long time for them to like call me back in my weird hotel room that I don't have any like real privilege to. And so then I was like, I know where she works, and so I was like, I'm gonna go to her office and like tell them what's happened. So I go through like downtown Santiago, and like everyone's a murderer to me because I've been like robbed, and someone found me in a hotel room to tell me like to bring the jewels to a location. And so like everyone, like I'm like super cagey, and I like get into this like high rise where they work, and there's like a receptionist, and I come in and I'm like, is Daniela here? And like I think they must all know that she's at the police station, and like everything has shit hit the fan, and they're just like, yeah. And so then I go, and then like I go into their little cubicle, and I like whirl her chair around, and she's just like chilling at work, and I'm like hyperventilating. I was like, oh, I thought you were almost dead. Like, are you not at the police station anymore? Like, how did they get everything rectified? And like I'm like, someone just called and said like, give her the whole spiel. And then all her coworkers are like, oh my god, you got robbed in this other country, this other city. And it's super common here, cuento del tío, like the uncle story. If they have access to your information, they will fine you. They usually do it to maids of really rich families, and they call and say like, you're like mysterious benefactor that owns this mansion has been in this accident, and we need you to bring all his money. Can you go in the safe and bring it to us? And then like the poor maids that don't have access to like the internet where they like blow up this scam are like, oh my gosh, yes, let me like put a knife in a safe and bring you all the jewels. And so like that guy that stole her bag, that's like the follow-up scam, is they look through your bag and they find out all the names of the people you know, and then they call you. And so that's how they knew like about Gustavo. And they were asking like, when does she get paid? And I was like, I think she gets paid on Saturday. And I like told them all this stuff because I like really was like, well, how would they, it's Gustavo. Like I've met Gustavo, that's your coworker. So they have her address, her room number, her phone number. They know my name. They have photos with 1 million photos of our faces, like, and they know that she gets paid on Saturday, and they know where she works, and they know her coworkers, and all this stuff. And she's like asking me, like, what'd you tell them? And I'm like, kind of everything, because I thought it was Gustavo. And they're like, oh my god, you poor girls. And so then we like go to the police station there, and there's this like enormous sign that's like, watch out for Cuento del Tío, here's what they'll tell you. And it was like everything that I just heard on the phone. And I was like so mad as a traveler that I hadn't like done my homework to know about that scam. And she's freaking out, and I'm pretty psyched out because I was half asleep when it happened, so it feels really invasive. And so she calls like the parent company back in the States and is like, this is what's going on, this is everything that they know about us, like, what do we do at this point? And, you know, all the Chileans are like, they're not going to come find you. Like, these are teenagers. This is what they do. They were probably, like, all sitting around laughing while you were, like, putting a knife in a safe, like, crying. And so she was like, what do we do? And they were like, well, we're happy to put you in a different room in that hotel. And so in the meantime, we'll put you guys up. And so they put us up in the Grand Hyatt in downtown Santiago, which is the like creme de la creme, like bougie hotel that costs like $500 a night probably. And we get there in the middle of the night, and like you know, we're all still like shaken up, and we just like bring our stuff and fall asleep at night. And the story ends safe at last when these we wake up to the sun and these bay windows like all around us, and the snow-covered Andes just like looming in front of us. Like I thought there was a purple wall outside of the window. And that's how my trip with no plan and no identity turned into staying in the penthouse of the Andes.